position on Shanesha Taylor has changed?
Well, initially when we got involved, I think I felt about Shanesha the way many people did. A single mother, African American, veteran, homeless. It was a sad and tragic situation, and I stand by that. I don't think the initial facts have changed, but based on some of her recent actions, I don't consider myself a supporter any longer. I have some serious concerns now.
And how were you involved with her case earlier?
Well, I led the charge in relationship to the civil rights community and of what that outreach would look like. I was one of three people in the room that brokered the deal for her to avoid jail time. Myself, County Attorney Bill Montgomery, and Ben Taylor, her NAACP lawyer. And we structured that deal to protect Shanesha. Originally, as I'm sure you know, Montgomery asked for her to fund $60,000 from the $114,700 and some odd dollars she raised online. And she failed to follow through with that. We did some quick negotiating again. We brought the number to $45,000. She didn't fund that amount. Shanesha said, well, I can fund $35,000. So, you know, I went out on a limb again, conference with, at that time, Judge Welty. And, you know, they gave her even a third shot. They said, sure, 35. She failed to fund that as well. So I've assisted in terms of trying to keep her out of prison, reunifying her family. Never before have I worked with the county attorney, a Maricopa County attorney, an attorney general, a prosecutor that was willing to give Shanesha the kind of special treatment and the unique deal that Montgomery offered that would have erased anything from her criminal record and sent her on her way in possession of those funds, but set aside for the benefit of her children.
And you helped to try to remedy the original problem of getting a job for her. How
Oh,
did you do
that's
that?
right. You know, I talked to several folks in our hotel industry here in town. I have a good relationship with most of the general managers and some of their CEOs and board members for those that are publicly traded, like Marriott, Sheraton. We made the calls to get her those jobs. All she had to do was show up. I made the calls. Amanda Bishop, the young woman that started the U-Caring site to raise the money for her, and business owners called out of the blue. I know of a pizza chain that called both me and her attorney that offered her a manager's position. These are walk-on jobs. You know, her name's Shanesha Taylor. I call these jobs tailor-ready jobs. All she had to do was show up, and unfortunately, she just didn't. You know, she told us. We asked her, "What are you interested in?" She said, "The hotel industry, the service industry," and that's what we went after. And for her not to show up for those interviews is really disheartening. I'm not angry with Shanesha, but I'm extremely disappointed because I think her children are in harm's way again. If she's convicted, where will they go? You know, where will they go?
You say they were tailor-ready jobs. You
Yeah.
didn't get her interviews. You got her jobs.
Well, that's right. These were not warm leads. These were jobs. These were show up, you know, bring your ID, your social security card, and get to work. But work is the operative word. There's no indication that she actually wants to engage in any.
And how does that make you feel? And what was your response, or how did you talk to her about, hey, you never showed up?
The response came when the employers called and said, is she sick? Did she understand that this was a walk-on job, you know? And having to explain to them why she didn't bother to come was not very comfortable. I know hundreds of people that are looking for work. I know dozens of defendants in this town with cases, some having to do with child abuse, some around civil rights, some around, you know, minor drug possession, that sort of thing, that would do a backflip, that would do whatever was required of them to get the kind of deal that Shanesha got. She doesn't know how lucky she was. Now everything's off the table. You know, like Montgomery said, he's exhausted. She has exhausted his patience. and she has undermined her own supporters. It's just a tragedy. That's what I call it, the tragedy of Shanesha Taylor, because she had everything laid out for her, and she decided instead to spend money on designer clothes. We had someone call my office and alert her attorney to the fact that she spent $6,000 at a music studio in Tempe to finish her baby daddy's rap album. I hope it's a hit. I hope it's a hit, and I hope it was worth it, because that's not what people gave her that money for. She told the courts that she had $72,000 left, but has refused to show a bank statement, not even to her own attorneys, which is why they quit her case. You can't represent someone when they won't be forthright with the facts with you. She said she had $72,000 left. The judge said, you know, then why are you asking for a public defender? And I think that's a question people should ask. If she has the money left, why has the court declared her to be, you know, so far in debt, so indigent, so poor that she needs a public defender? In fact, the second attorney, John Agra, that went to represent her, withdrew from the case because she failed to meet their monetary agreement. So that's the big question, and the question that bothers me the most. What did you spend the money on? You didn't spend it on your kids, and that to me is shameful.
So she spent the money on, you know, she talked about Chuck E. Cheese and McDonald's.
Yeah. Weekly.
Yeah. Yeah, those are her money.
Yeah, I know some families in North Scottsdale that can't afford to do that.
The record studio, apparently, she was buying Michael Kors, is that
That's
right?
right. That's right. Designer jeans, you know, $200 shirts, $400 purse. We noticed through the court hearings a change in Shanesha. She went from wearing what you could call Target-esque clothing to these major labels that are not cheap. Who bought those? You know, and my question is, I don't begrudge anyone anything. I'm not vindictive or feel like I need to discipline her. I just ask, you know, what her priorities are. Are her children first? Because if they are, she needed to fund the trust. If she bought, you know, 40 acres and a mule with the rest of the money after she funded the trust, I wouldn't care. But now she could lose her children. She's facing serious felony counts for child abuse, and the money's gone. And what about the next person? What about the next Shanesha Taylor or Mr. Taylor, Jane or John Doe civil rights victim or person that needs another leg up? Is America going to open their purse string the same way and help them? I don't know. 94% of the people that gave Shanesha money were white. I think she's given minorities a bad name, poor people in general, but it's going to make it harder. She can do right. She needs to release her bank statements, be honest about how she spent that money, and face consequences if she wants to help those coming behind her in a similar situation. But she may be too selfish to do that.
Now that's something to hear Reverend Moffin say. She gives perhaps minorities a bad name.
Absolutely.
That's got to be hard for you to say.
It's hard, and it's not politically correct. Maybe some people will be shocked, but it's the truth. You know, a lot of people were skeptical. You read on social media, they shouldn't give her money. You know, she's a welfare queen. She doesn't want to work. She doesn't deserve it. And at the time, we felt she did deserve it. No one, I think, in their right mind or with a good set of morals doesn't think that Shanesha deserves the money for the sake of her children and for her family to get its feet, you know, firmly planted and have housing and transportation, education, food. No one is begrudging her those things. But the designer clothes, the failure to not share with the county attorney how you spent the money or your own lawyers how you spent the money, it's just troubling.
You know her better, or have at least had a chance to talk to her more than a lot of other people have. So what's going on with Shanesha Taylor?
I don't know. Have you ever seen that Snickers commercial where a person they flip out, they turn into a diva until someone gives them some candy? That is the best way I've heard the situation described by one of the attorneys, and I agreed with them. We're dealing with someone who's become a diva for a cause celeb that doesn't exist. I think there's a misconception that Shanesha has that the public is with her. She said a few weeks ago after the last hearing, I'm still the same Shanesha that I was in the very beginning. And I said to myself when I heard her say that, I hope not. I had hoped you were a Shanesha that learned from your mistake, that recognized you needed to change, that had an opportunity to do something different. But I think what she said was very telling. Perhaps she is the same person that left her children in a car on a hot summer day, and she hasn't learned anything at all.
So did she just pull a con job?
Well, what did P.T. Barnum say? You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And I said, and have maintained this, I'm with Shanesha. I pray for Shanesha. I don't want to see her go to jail. I want to see her kids remain with her, but I also want justice. I asked the county attorney for justice tempered with mercy, and she exploited that mercy and abused that mercy. Now there's just justice left, and that's what I want to see is justice in this situation, and that may include a conviction. The county attorney must enforce the law, and Shanesha abused the plea development system, and threw the civil rights community and her pro bono civil rights attorney under the bus. That is outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous.
I looked at her Twitter page and she's asking for more donations.
That's right. Now she has a legal defense fund, and my question is, well, I say you're broke. The public believes you spent all the money. You say you haven't. Why are you asking for more money for your defense? She should have $72,000 for her defense. But I think the truth is she has burned through that money. That's why she's begging for more. And no one wants to go to jail. But she had an opportunity to take money that she wasn't expecting, money that she didn't earn, and take less than half of that and put it aside for her kids. She said, well, I didn't want to do it because I couldn't access the money. I didn't want to do it because I wouldn't be able to touch it. The kids couldn't use it if they didn't go to college. That was a lie. That was an ugly lie. The way we structured the trust was the kids could use it for college, trade school, get their certification. They could use it to become a dog catcher and ice cream man if they wanted to. Whatever they needed it for, transportation, food, clothes, books, tuition, it would have been there for them. Now they don't have that security. And the other monies, were for child care, to make sure that while she's this single mother working full time, her kids can have daycare and not have to worry about being left in a car. It wasn't a criminal fine. No one is trying to separate Shanesha from her money. We're trying to separate Shanesha from her mistakes, and that has proven to be perhaps an insurmountable obstacle.
Do you think anyone's going to donate to this after this new plea for money?
Sure, people would probably donate to Jodi Arias too if they could. A lot of people are sympathetic no matter what. And I'll be real honest with you as a civil rights leader. There are so many legitimate victims of civil rights abuses or victims of the criminal justice system that it irks me to no end when you have someone use a victimhood status to try to raise money. Shanesha's saying things, the DA's socialist, oppressive racist, the judges are racist, the system is against me. No, she can't say that. In this instance, we worked a good deal for her, and she's hurting others who are legitimately being victimized, who legitimately have a victim status. In her case, we built a bridge over a valley of of inequity, and the valley of gender inequality, and the valley of the wealth gap, and the valley of single parenthood. We built a bridge. All she had to do was walk across the bridge. I couldn't drag her across. I couldn't scare her across. She had to walk across on her own. That's all she had to do. And she chose not to do it. Instead, she burned the bridge down.